All right, hello everyone. How's everyone doing today? Awesome. Um, so, uh, Welcome to the arts organizations partnering with school sessions. Our speakers today are Ebony Johnson, Visual Arts Coordinator for Fort Worth ISD. We have Nicholas Ditto, founder and CEO of Fort Worth STEAM Academy. Lauri Bevan, Executive Director of Imagination Fort Worth, and Dr. Anika Perkins, CEO, President, and Superintendent of the Texas Center for Arts and Academics. My name is Sauntymia Robinson. I'm the co-founder of Artistry Soul Collective, and I am your moderator for this session. Our full bios are available using the event QR code here or on the back of your name tags. In this session, we'll talk about how schools can partner with arts organizations to enhance student experiences and accessibility. Nicholas, I'll start with you. You are opening a new school called the Fort Worth STEAM Academy. How and why will the arts be included in the school curriculum?
So I'm happy to start off with a why first. So, research has shown that arts education is linked to lower dropout rates, to higher academic achievement, and reduced disciplinary incidents. But besides just the academic component, it's so essential for students to build their executive functioning. So to be able to manage their thoughts, their emotions, their actions. And this is something that's essential for students no matter what career they're going into. And so to shift into the how, at Fort Worth STEAM Academy, visual arts is part of the core curriculum. So students will get 2 years of visual arts, but arts are not just an add-on. Instead, they're integrated into all the subjects. And so when I think about this, I want to give an example, or a couple actually, right? When you think about science, as students are learning about plate tectonics, something that can be very abstract, now they're going and illustrating those out. Then they're modeling the movements that are happening with it. And so by incorporating art into science, students are getting a much more thorough understanding of how the science shapes the world in which they live in. The second I want to share is engineering. So you may think, oh, this is such a very technical class and skill, but students are using those design principles as they're coming up with these creative solutions to real world challenges. They're using prototyping to refine those models. And so at Fort Worth STEAM Academy, being able to integrate arts into all portions of the learning really helps shape our students into those creative problem solvers that are not just important today, but important into the future as well.
Awesome. And I love that you said, or you pointed out that you're integrating art into everything that they're doing because it helps keep them well-rounded for sure. Thank you so much for that. So Ebony, as the coordinator for the visual arts for Fort Worth ISD, can you share some successes and achievements that can be attributed to students participating in the arts?
Yes. First, I want to give a little bit of background just about me so I can kind of tie it all together.
Absolutely.
I've taught in 3 different states. I'm still a new Texan. This is my 6th year in Texas, and I taught in Mississippi, Tennessee, and then I learned under my husband in education when we were in Louisiana, and I'm from the East Coast. So one of the things that when I came here, I first started as an educator, and my number one priority for my students and for the community, I would tell them all the time, the art does not exist to me. The art is not for me. The art is for you and it's for the community. And when I stepped into this role as the coordinator, I wanted to make sure that I continued with that. So the first thing that I did was I created a virtual gallery for every single school in our district. And the purpose of that was to be able to go beyond just the zip codes, but also beyond our state even. One of the things that it did was it attracted, the company is Trumont. They're a land developing company outside of Dallas. And we were able to partner with them. They built a brand new multi-million-dollar apartment complex in North Keller. And one of the artists was doing a mural, but we had the idea, what if a student designed that mural? And so not only did the student design the mural, they did not change the mural at all. I told them, because if you're going to partner with me, you're going to do it my way. So I made sure that the students were involved in the process, and we actually had a hard hat tour. We went to the facility there, and the owners of the company even gave a scholarship to our winning students. And it was a very emotional day. Every single person, all of us cried. But just actually getting them to see what they're doing in the classroom, actually see the application of it. We had our first student, well, just 2 weeks ago, we had a student place in the National Scholastic Art and Writing Awards at Arlington Heights. And now her work will be touring the country for 2 years, and she's going to be honored in New York City. We had another teacher this year do an amazing job in Stop Six and really, really reviving that community with art and community art, and has celebrated. And so for me, it is beyond what we're doing in the classroom. It is beyond the studio assignments. Making art applicable to all of the students and also the parents so that they can understand the buy-in of what we're doing and how art is changing community. That's what I'm working for.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And I love how you shared that the students are involved. It's not just them going out and seeing art, and being inspired, but being able to say, I did this, I put my stamp on it. So that's awesome. Lauri, Imagination Fort Worth is uniquely focused on access, a theme throughout today's event. How do you find the students in need of services and work with the schools to provide those services to the students? Please provide some examples of accessibility.
This organization originally started connected with the Kennedy Center's initiative to bring access to the arts across the United States. And then something really profound happened in a few communities, and that was that a relationship with the school district, Fort Worth ISD in Fort Worth, Texas, came about, and the whole point of that relationship was to bring arts and education access to the schools, to the kids, and also arts integration experiences to the teachers and to the community as a whole. And so we are about access, and access can look like so many things. There was a teacher that I just ran into who taught in Fort Worth ISD who had, you talk to constituents, you talk and you ask. We need access to high quality art materials. We don't have a budget. Okay, that's something that we can bring in to help you with in terms of our whole mission, which is to provide programming, but the high quality arts instruction materials can be included. Certain populations. There is a woman in this room that worked very hard for us for years, and we got kids down at the Trinity River with cross-sector partners, and they did science, they did cultural history, they did arts, they did math, and down at the river. And there were kids coming who didn't even know we had a river in Fort Worth. So there was an access to the experience that was very moving. Any kid can come. They can come no matter what their physical capabilities are, their learning differences are. We accommodate those. We have a program next weekend that is for deaf and hard of hearing high school students. This is our 36th year of that program. They come from all over the state. And at the time it was formed, there was really nothing for deaf kids. And it's all about connection with kids like them, communicating in workshops with deaf mentors, artists in particular. Relationships have formed, careers have formed, beautiful things have happened through that program. So I could go on, but yeah. But I just wanted to call out Susie Hyman for working so hard, and also DJ Pereira that we had worked with in the past who are here today.
Awesome. And I love that what you said about accessibility, it doesn't just stop at, being out in, the community, but looking at the differences within the community and making sure that you kind of fill the gaps there. My next question is for Anika. Similar question, but from a different perspective. As an art school, How are students selected, and what are the advantages and services available to your students?
Yes, so the Texas Center for Arts Plus Academics, which is our nonprofit, we oversee two different fine arts based charter public schools in Fort Worth. The first one being Texas School of the Arts, and that's kinder through fifth grade. The second being Fort Worth Academy of Fine Arts, and that's third through 12th grade. So how do students get admitted into our public charter school system? We're an outlier when it comes to public charter school systems in America, in that our students are admitted based on a fine arts audition. So we don't ask any background information about behavior, grades, learning styles. We don't ask any of those questions. It is solely based on their fine arts audition. They have auditions based in theater, choir, visual arts, and dance. And so the opportunity that provides for us is definitely, it provides a school community that the main focus is fine arts. And so there's no competing with other entities that may be in a school system. They are the stars. It is their community. They are seen genuinely in our school systems. And so that is the unique opportunity we are able to provide. And also, we don't, with our school systems, we don't say that we're better than another school system or less than, but what we do in addition to our fine arts is that we collaborate even with ISDs. For example, this year, earlier in the year, we collaborated with Crowley ISD, and we were able to bring some of their elementary school systems to our schools, and they were able to see some of our fine arts. So in addition to that, we find it, and I find it very important that we collaborate with other systems in the education arena to ensure that we help them also focus on fine arts and bring fine arts to their students, because we feel very firmly that all students deserve an opportunity to have a good, equitable education in the area that is of their interest. And so that is definitely why we focus in the arts. With our school systems, we specialize in all special programs. So we have students that receive special education services. That includes 504, dyslexia, and all the areas. We also provide gifted and talented services. We provide services for our at-risk students, our economically disadvantaged, all that you would find in any traditional school system. We also provide that when students are admitted to our school system.
Awesome, awesome. And I have to say, as a former special education teacher that worked with students who were diagnosed with several different types of behavioral disorders, and knowing the barriers that are, there for them, and unfortunately, them first being seen as, well, you have behavioral concerns, so we need to look at that first. Hearing that you look more so at the fine arts interest of those students, and then also provide that support, that's really amazing that you do that.
Absolutely.
So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. So if a student needs to stand and beat on a desk and start off with a beat, they fit in right in with
For
us,
sure.
because that is, we provide that non-traditional with that focus on the fine arts.
Awesome, awesome. My next question is for Nicholas. Can you talk to us about how the arts build essential skills for the future?
Absolutely. So there's no surprise that our world is rapidly evolving. And so students need to be well prepared for that. And when I think about technical skills, they're going to come and go. What is relevant today is going to be obsolete very shortly. However, when I think about creativity, problem solving, adaptability, and especially the ability to communicate with others, those are forever skills. And so arts plays a huge role in helping students build these durable skills and become those lifelong learners that are going to be able to think critically and tackle whatever problems come their way. And so to give an example, I think about take a city skyline project. As students are trying to map out where to put the buildings on the paper, you're starting to think critically. As you are figuring out your colors, your patterns, your design elements, that creativity is really shining through. As students are crafting their artist statements and explaining their rationale behind their decisions, that communication comes into play. And as students are presenting their project to their classmates and their community, they're building confidence in their public speaking. And so with one project, students are building right there 4 durable skills. That to me is the power of arts education. It's not preparing students for any single career, but rather it's equipping them with the knowledge, the skills, and the mindsets to succeed wherever their future takes them.
Awesome, awesome. And those skills definitely have to be translated, across the board. So thank you for that. Ebony, what is the best way for an arts education organization to approach the school district about partnership opportunities?
I'll give you the easy answer and the answer no one wants to hear. Okay. The easy answer is to navigate to 4th ISD Visual and Performing Arts page. You can find our Visual and Performing Arts Director, Jesse Cannon, and he'll get you connected. That's the easy thing, right? But that's just making the connection. You want action behind it. As an artist, our love language is movement, color, emphasis, design, the spirit of inquisition, pursuit of creativity, the what ifs. That's not the love language of the people that are making the decisions. The love language of the people making the decisions is return on investment. Let's just call it what it is. And so when you're talking about that, you're talking about making those connections to literacy, to math, to science, to culture, to history. And so when you're going to the organizations, you have to speak not feelings, but facts. Talk about how this is influencing literacy, how this is helping us bridge communities and bring people together, because that is what they're wanting to hear. And when you sell that, that's where the action comes behind it. Yes, you can take this bus. Yes, I'm gonna give you 10 grand to do that. I mean, it's just the reality. So when you're talking about making those connections and really wanting to partner with organizations, key is learning their love language and speaking their love language through ours so that you can hook them.
Yes, for sure. And thank you for being honest about what is necessary to make those partnerships. Lauri, there we go. Imagination Fort Worth serves students, teachers, schools, and the arts. With such a wraparound approach, how do you measure success?
Well, we have very formal ways of measuring success. That's keeping data about outputs, and then also the surveys that are very carefully designed to measure, does this support your classroom curriculum that you're obligated to teach? Is this art piece valuable to you? Is it unique? Is it innovative? We have a whole series of surveys that teachers and also students self-assess. So we look at that as well. And then we have wonderful stories and synchronistic moments where at a big art show, 25 years later, there's an uncle who is there with his nephew collecting an award for a visual art show, and his uncle had won that award 25 years earlier. Wow. So we know that through the history of the organization, we're making an impact. Mm-hmm. One wonderful thing that came back recently, a story back to us, was that in both in-person theatrical programming, that a young woman who had presented as angry and withdrawn otherwise in school was just lit up on stage with her peers, and the teacher came in and said, "What? That's not the same kid." That's impact. We also got an email back recently from a teacher talking about how with the teacher-led modules, the digital curriculum, that the whenever there's a sub or anyone else involved, that they use the curriculum and the projects, that there are no behavior problems in the classroom. The kids are engaged and having a good time. That's impact. So we assess it in a lot of ways.
Yes, absolutely. And that speaks to, what Ebony was saying, that, yeah, there are the exciting pieces of the arts and making those connections, but there's also the facts and the data. And so I love that both of you are talking about how there's an impact and it's not just numbers on a paper, right? So that's awesome. Anika, you operate 2 schools and 2 choirs under one nonprofit umbrella. What unique challenges does that present with regard to governance and funding?
Challenges in education?
Unheard of.
Right. We'll say that. So yes, in the Texas Education Eyes, we actually operate 2 different school districts. So a lot of people say 2 different campuses, but in TEA's eyes, are 2 different school districts. And so with that, we also, under Fort Worth Academy of Fine Arts, have the Texas Boys Choir, Singing Girls of Texas, but we've also added this year Academy Singers, as well as our children's choir. So we actually have 4 choirs. And so under those umbrellas and the governance and the funding, because as I mentioned earlier, we're an outlier when it comes to public charter school districts in the state of Texas. And so some will say, well, is that a school of choice, or what are charter schools? So we are an option for parents. And so with that, we don't receive tax dollars as an ISD or a traditional school system would. So definitely our funding is we receive $1,600 less per student than a traditional ISD school system would. So what we're doing right now currently is we're hoping through this legislative session that we'll get a little more equal funding when it comes to our facilities. So that's like one of our biggest challenges, because we don't have that extra tax dollars coming in to be able to upkeep and maintain our facilities. And so just a FY and a plug. So Tuesday, there will be a hearing in the legislative session about facility funding for all school systems. And so if you want to get on, or if you want to sign the petition, just go to the Texas Public Charter School Association's website, and definitely you will see all the information where they're advocating for that. But definitely, not only is there challenges, or are there challenges, but there are also opportunities. And so definitely I don't want you all to think that it's just all, because one thing that we're able to do is we are able to go into the community as our development director and our other TCA team, they're able to build partnerships. And so, for example, our Texas Boys Choir, Singing Girls of Texas, they travel both internationally and domestically, like our Texas Boys Choir. They're getting ready to go without me to Hawaii. How can that be?
Disrespectful.
Very, very. However, last year they traveled to Greece. And so even our Singing Girls of Texas, they did a Norway tour. So definitely we are reaching, and we want to reach not just in this country, but we want an international reach to show how the arts can impact students across the world. Definitely one thing that we like to tout and like to show with our students. So for the last couple of years, our valedictorian and our salutatorian, they went on to major in degrees, one in business, the other in the medical field. However, in last year's group, we also had a student that received a full choir scholarship to Vanderbilt University. And so when we talk about, and when the panelists and we talk about, it builds well-rounded students. It does. It builds well-rounded students that know and they have been developed in the arts. And so I like to say a lot of times when we receive students, they're novice artists in their area of specialty in the fine arts. But when they leave, they are professionals. And that's definitely to our dedicated teachers and instructors that develop our students and give them real life artists and background in the areas in the arts, and connect them with people in the area of their field that can help them propel in the area of arts. Because we also like to show that there are opportunities for employment in the art, and that is what we're really trying to push TEA on as well, because school systems receive extra funding in the area of like CCMR, and that stands for College, Career, and Military Readiness. However, you don't hear anything about the arts. And so we don't get that additional funding. However, that is where we have to, as some people like to say, pop out and show them the arts is also a viable working field. And so students can be able to receive quite a few options in the area of the fine arts as well.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for that. So this next question is for those of you who have included virtual curriculum. What are some of the pros and cons of virtual learning in the arts? And will you continue to offer the option post-pandemic? You can go ahead and start.
First of all, I just want to say that I learned in the past 6 months that virtual is a dirty word. So we had to look at what we're doing, and what we really are doing isn't the virtual learning that people are attaching to what happened that wasn't effective related to COVID. So when COVID hit, early on I looked at the staff and I said, boy, we're going to have to transition or we're going to be doing nothing. And so we took our model, our mission, and adapted it to what are actually video-enhanced, teacher-led modules. They're a full fleshed out curriculum. They're all arts integrated. They're in English and Spanish. One of the neatest parts is there are artist videos. So we contract with artists to come in and create a lesson and we work with the artists so that they understand also what learning outcomes they need to tie it to through their art form. And so we have a really robust, that word, but we have a program based on an actual in-person program, Storybook Pal, that started and piloted at MG Ellis and Western Hills Primary. And it's about literacy, language acquisition, and school readiness. And so each month there's a storybook reading in English and Spanish. There's an artist video that ties in and supports vocabulary retention and other reading retention skills. There is a curriculum, and the teachers actually lead it in person in the classroom, but it's all there. And so what's happening is that the teachers are learning, they're having support to learn to teach creatively using arts integration. And when we started this, we thought, well, we don't know how this will do, and we don't know how long we'll be doing it. This year, our numbers are higher than ever, 76,000 plus kids across the state of Texas. Obviously, a crux of the numbers locally, but all regions of Texas, 17 other states in the United States, and we're just blown away. And repeat customers, 50% are returning customers, new customers, and I say teachers and students. And in addition to that, the thing that I think is most important to us, it gets back to access. When you analyze where the lowest access is to arts education experiences, we have so much gratefully going on in towns, which there's never enough. but it's the small communities that are economically challenged and have access to nothing. So those rural communities and remote rural communities are a big part of the people using these materials. And we're really pleased with that aspect, especially as it's gotten more challenging to get kids out.
Yes, and to piggyback on that, with our nonprofit, we offer after-school conservatories, and that is open to anyone. They do not have to be a student at one of our school systems. They are tuition-based. However, recently we were able to have a visitor from Cameroon that came and wanted to see about fine arts and opening fine art schools. So we were able to model for him, and with the virtual learning, there's a little slight time difference, but we're working that out, and we're able to show how we do things at Fort Worth Academy of Fine Arts, as well as Texas School of the Arts, and our after-school conservatories with those in Cameroon as they're starting their school systems as well. So as where we cannot do it as far as curriculum and instruction per TEA guidelines, we are utilizing and seeing how we can spread and, like she said, our reach outside of just Fort Worth and our walls in our school systems to ensure that we do provide that virtual connection through the arts internationally as well.
I want to echo what both of my colleagues are saying up here, because I do agree with what Lauri said about virtual and it being this, taboo word. But I think for me, it was transitioning to the understanding of it's not virtual learning, I'm extending the learning environment. And so it's so often we just limit the learning environment to the classroom. And really, the classroom should be the experimentation space where I've obtained the knowledge, but then I'm given this opportunity to experiment, to explore, to find, to research. And when you're talking about opening it up and having visiting artists from other countries come in and all these different things, if we were to just stop with all of the good that happened during the pandemic, you're missing out on the mark, because you're not able to make a connection where you're in a studio class. I finished an assignment, and you know what? I have a visiting artist from New York. Go ahead and log on. So let's have a Zoom call with them, or let's connect with a university and have a portfolio review or things like that. And so for me, I'm not abandoning anything, because I think that is what's actually propelling us forward as an arts organization.
We're also finding that with the challenges in education, the budgets and the staffing and seasoned teachers leaving, there are teachers and librarians that are being asked to pick up. I mean, the space of visual arts or any other art form, especially on elementary level, there's no one to teach it. So what we've heard back from the librarians and the science teacher that are using the materials is that I was asked to do this. I know nothing, but I have this format and we can do this. And so, again, there's a gap, it provides access, and there's a need.
Absolutely. Well, I want to say thank you for having this conversation with all of us and sharing your expertise and the amazing things that you're doing, both with your students and just throughout the community. So if we can give them a round of applause. Okay, everyone, it is time for our lunch break. Box lunches will be set up downstairs for those of you that pre-purchased lunch, and for our event participants who are provided lunch. You are welcome to enjoy them wherever you'd like, on the lawn, in Gina's Cafe, or back up here, or head off campus and support a local eatery here on the east side. We do have a handful of extra box lunches, so if you would like to still purchase one, you may do so downstairs. The Moxie Concepts team will be in the lobby to assist. You will want to be back here again just before 1 p.m. to hear from Mayor Maddie Parker, Bob Jamieson, the president and CEO of Visit Fort Worth, and then our keynote speaker all the way from Washington, D.C., Randy Cohen. Enjoy your lunch, and we'll see you here back at 1 p.m. Thank you.